Hello, everyone. Tonight we're waking up in a Yoruba kingdom long before the first British merchant ever squinted into the West African sunrise. You're not opening your eyes to the hum of traffic or a phone alarm. Instead, the first sound is a rooster's slow, rusty crow off key, but determined. Smoke from cooking fires drifts lazily across the thatched rooftops. It's warm already, and you're still wrapped in sleep, stretched out on a woven mat beneath a raffia ceiling, blinking at the golden hush of dawn. Someone's already moving outside. You hear a soft, sweeping sound, long palm fronds brushing against packed earth. It's your aunt, most likely, clearing the courtyard before the sun takes full control of the sky. Chickens cluck as they sidestep her broom, annoyed but outmatched, somewhere to your left. A goat announces itself with unnecessary confidence. You roll onto your side. The mat is stiff but familiar. A child nearby, maybe your younger cousin, lets out a tiny yawn before returning to their dreams. In this compound, made up of rounded huts clustered around a shared open space, sleep doesn't end all at once. It wanders from hut to hut, slipping away like a reluctant visitor. Hey, if you're loving this content, I'd really appreciate it if you could give the video a quick like and hit that subscribe button. Tell me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push back the cloth draped over the doorway. The air smells of firewood and damp earth. Your mother is already beside the hearth, coaxing a flame beneath a clay pot. Water simmers with something fragrant, smoked fish, maybe, or locust beans. You breathe it in, the way one might savor the smell of coffee today. But this is earthier, saltier, and spiced with the faintest trace of pepper. There's no hurry. Time unfolds slowly here. You sit on a carved stool, rubbing your eyes. The day doesn't begin with schedules or to-do lists. It begins with movement, heat, and sound. You hear a dun-dun drum in the distance, soft and conversational. It's probably the praise singer, weaving names and stories into rhythm as he walks the path toward the palace. This is Ife, or perhaps Oyo, or Elisa, one of the many Yoruba city-states where morning is never quiet. But it is calm. The compound is waking up. Someone nearby pours water into a calabash, splashing a little as they rinse their face. A young girl, maybe your niece, is balancing a bowl on her head, carrying yesterday's ashes out to the edge of the bush. You think about breakfast, though you won't say it out loud just yet. Meals here are not served on demand, they're summoned by rhythm. First, the sweeping, then the fire, then the slow, patient rituals of pounding, stirring, tasting. A breeze stirs your wrapper. You wrap it tighter. A dog barks once, pointlessly. A fly buzzes past your ear. You consider swatting it, but change your mind. There's something lazy about the way it loops through the air, as if even the insects know there's no rush yet. Historians still argue whether the earliest Yoruba breakfast customs were strictly communal or more fragmented by household. What's clear is that food here was never just food, it was social glue. You didn't just eat, you participated, you watched, you waited for your turn. A clay pot is uncovered, releasing a puff of scented steam. You hear the familiar crackle of hot palm oil hitting the bottom of another pot. That sound alone makes your stomach murmur with anticipation. Now comes the sound of voices low and teasing. Someone jokes about the neighbor who always asks for pepper but never brings any. Laughter rolls out like mist. In a culture rich with oriki poetic praise and playful mockery, these tiny morning exchanges are part of the meal itself. You glance up at the sky, still soft, still undecided. A few birds trade opinions in the nearby baobab, and then music. Not a song, exactly, but the way metal meets wood as someone starts pounding yam in the far corner of the compound. It's rhythmic, almost melodic, like a heartbeat shared between generations. You close your eyes for a moment and let the sounds wash over you. This is how mornings begin in the Yoruba kingdoms, not with urgency, but with attention, not with haste, but with depth. The food will come, the sun will rise. But for now, you're part of a story unfolding slowly, like steam curling from a cooking pot warm, familiar, and slightly spicy. You stretch your arms slowly and step out into the courtyard, your bare feet pressing into warm, packed earth. The sweeping is done now. A smooth fan of pale lines spirals out from where your aunt finished clearing the ground, a daily canvas, drawn and redrawn. It's quiet but alive out here. You can feel the compound breathing, a rhythm beneath everything. The fire in the hearth crackles gently as your mother stirs something thick in the pot. It smells fermented, slightly sour, slightly sweet. Oji, most likely, a maize or millet porridge that everyone pretends to enjoy but secretly has mixed feelings about. But before anyone can eat, the day's first duties begin. You take up the broom for your part of the work. Courtyard swept check. Water fetched. Almost. The clay pot is balanced on your cousin's head now, her face comically serious as she heads off to the stream with two others. You wonder if they'll come straight back or dawdle and tell stories by the fig tree again. Breakfast can't start until these chores are done. That's the unspoken law of the household. Now comes the real muscle work pounding yam. You grab a large wooden mortar, worn smooth from use, and the heavy pestle that rests beside it like a sleepy club. It takes rhythm. You don't just pound, you dance with it. Up, down, twist, thud. A practiced beat that echoes from other courtyards, mixing with the dun-dun drums still drifting lazily through the town. You're not alone. Everyone has a role, even if it's just shooing the goats away from the vegetable patch or fetching dried fish from the rafters. Breakfast here isn't a product, it's a performance. Historians still debate whether these compound chores were evenly shared or subtly gendered. There's evidence that in royal households, men also had early morning responsibilities, feeding sacred animals, tending shrines, or preparing for council. But here in the common compound, it's mostly the women and children who set the day in motion. The hearth now has three pots going, one for Oji, another for a light okra stew, and a smaller one for heating yesterday's leftover bean cakes, akara crispy, golden, and worth fighting over. Your mother pinches a bit of salt into the bubbling pot, then taps the wooden spoon twice against the rim. It's her way of saying, almost ready. Meanwhile, you dodge a goose with unclear motives and grab a handful of dried pepper from the basket. The spice makes you sneeze, drawing laughter from a nearby uncle who's pretending to be helpful but hasn't moved in 10 minutes. Palm oil gets added last bright red, thick and glossy. It sizzles when it hits the stew, painting everything with that unmistakable earthy aroma. Your stomach growls again. A cousin hears it and grins. Somewhere nearby, someone's frying plantains. The smell drifts over and immediately starts a quiet debate among the children. Everyone loves plantains, but no one ever seems to agree on how crispy is too crispy. You walk back to the compound center where the small bench under the guava tree waits. The morning light has shifted, dappling the ground in warm golds and soft browns. There's no rush, but there's definitely a rhythm. You sit and let the sun hit your legs while you wait for your mother's voice, come and eat. That moment, that small phrase is like a song. It means you've done your part. The courtyard is clean, the fire is hot, and the family is ready. It means you're about to be fed not just food, but warmth, connection, belonging. A younger cousin toddles past you, gripping a carved spoon like a prize. Behind him, the goats have returned with their usual lack of boundaries. You swat them away gently, grumbling in a language that's half words, half eyebrow movements. In Yoruba culture, food is never solitary. Meals are woven into social identity, clan structure, even belief systems. You don't just eat with people, you become part of them through food. Scholars still debate whether this intimacy came from agricultural interdependence or spiritual cosmology, but here in the compound, it just feels natural. The chores are mostly done. The pots are quiet now, just bubbling contentedly. You hear the faintest rustle of leaves as the breeze picks up again. Up. You close your eyes and take a deep breath. Firewood, yam, and hot pepper. The scent of a day beginning in full. You exhale, slow and easy, ready for whatever comes next, even if it's just stealing a piece of akara when no one's looking. You hear it first, a hollow thump, followed by a quiet scrape. Someone's dragging the low wooden breakfast table out from its spot against the wall. It's not large, just enough space for a few bowls. A calabash of water and the morning's treasures, yam pounded to a silky softness, stew thick with okra and red oil, and a bowl of oji waiting to be sweetened if you're lucky with a pinch of raw honey or bits of mashed banana. But here's the thing, you're not just going to sit down and dig in. This isn't some fast paced morning scramble like you'd find in a modern apartment. There's a kind of protocol to this, a dance of respect, order, and let's be honest, a little passive aggressive peeking over who gets what first. So the big question is, who actually cooks breakfast in a Yoruba compound like this? It depends on where you are, who lives in the compound, whether it's a regular day or a festival day, whether your grandfather's feeling talkative or whether someone argued last night and now everything's extra polite. Usually, it's the women older wives, younger wives, or sometimes the teenage daughters in law who take the lead at the hearth. But that doesn't mean the men are uninvolved. In some houses, especially where the matriarch is elderly or ill, respected older men might light the fire, measure the pepper, or even do the stirring. They'll insist they're not cooking. Of course, just assisting with pride, and precisely one stir of the spoon before they go sit down and sigh dramatically. Historians still argue whether these roles were rigid or fluid. Some say there were strictly enforced divisions: women's food, men's food, children's chores. Others argue the lines blurred depending on age, lineage, and personality. The truth probably lives somewhere in the middle, like OG that's neither too thick nor too runny. In your compound, breakfast prep is a collaboration. Your mother starts the process, your aunt adjusts the heat, your cousin adds in the dried shrimp with great ceremony, and you're the designated taster. Not an official title, but one you've earned through well timed compliments and dramatic nodding. There's a pause now as everyone gathers. A quiet before the food. Not prayer exactly, though it feels spiritual. Just a shared breath, a moment to acknowledge that the day has begun and that the food smells really, really good. The first bowl goes to your grandfather. It always does. He doesn't speak much in the mornings, but he grunts his approval after the first spoonful, which is a pretty big deal. Next is your mother, then your uncle, then you, and so on. Down the invisible ladder of age, respect, and who got up early enough to do actual work. You sit on a low stool, your bowl warm in your lap. You scoop with your fingers, right hand only. As is custom, your fingertips dip into the soft yam, form a small ball, and carry it to the stew. The pepper hits your tongue first, mild, but awakening. The okra is silky. The smoked fish is salty, rich, and perfectly tender. Across from you, your cousin is trying to look serious while stretching ogi between her fingers like glue. Someone snorts. Someone else mutters that if she plays with it too long, it'll curse her sleep. She sticks out her tongue and keeps playing anyway. You look around. The compound is fully awake now. Sunlight spills in from above the wall, painting gold lines across the earth. Chickens mill around the edges, hoping for scraps. A neighbor passes by the gate and waves lazily. Another family is pounding yam just 2 courtyards away, the sound rising and falling like waves. This breakfast isn't a one person event, it's a shared stage, a conversation made of food, gestures, laughter, and familiar silences. You eat slowly, letting the flavors settle, and just when you think it's over, your grandmother appears with a second helping for the youngest ones. She moves like she's always been here, like the hearth answers to her alone. She doesn't say much, but the look she gives the stew says it's not quite spicy enough. Your mother rolls her eyes. No one argues. That's the unspoken rule. The cooking is shared, the eating is communal. But the authority that often rests in the quiet glance of the eldest woman. As you scrape the last bits from your bowl, the morning air feels fuller somehow, like the compound is stretching its limbs, ready to face the day. You're full, but not just of food. You're full of this place, this rhythm, this echo of breakfasts that came before and will come after. And maybe, just maybe, you sneak one more piece of akara from the basket before someone catches you. The air changes ever so slightly lighter, warmer, and carrying the sound of something familiar, a low, rolling thump from the edge of the village. It's not drums for dancing or for war. These are morning signals, like gentle nudges to your ears. Your body already knows what they mean before your mind fully catches up. These are the Yoruba kingdom's alarm clocks, not digital, not battery powered, but steady and unmistakable. You sit back on your stool, fingers still tingling from the pepper laced stew, and listen. The gangan, or talking drum, is the most recognizable voice in this sleepy chorus. It's not just calling you, it's calling everyone. The messages change slightly depending on the town, the day, and the drummer. Sometimes it's a market announcement. Sometimes it's a family name chanted into the wind, reminding someone they still owe 3 yams and a chicken. Today's beat is slow, rhythmic, soothing. It tells you the market opens soon, that today is not for war, and that the gods are, for the moment, appeased. Closer to home, another sound slips in a praise singer's voice, crooning names in gentle staccato. It's soft, but you hear your family's lineage echo in the chant. Praise for your grandfather's deeds, your mother's resilience, your cousin's questionable sense of humor. The singer doesn't stop walking, just keeps moving down the dusty path, announcing worth with every step. Historians still argue whether the dawn calls from these singers were formal obligations or more spontaneous displays of loyalty and art. Some say they were employed directly by royal courts. Others believe these vocal wake up calls began as community efforts honoring the powerful while gently keeping them accountable. Either way, they worked. You're awake now, not jolted, but lifted. Inside the compound, someone taps a spoon against the rim of an empty calabash. Another low signal, breakfast's over. The bowls are rinsed with a splash of warm water, wiped with leaves, then stacked back beside the hearth. A toddler chases a chicken and gets exactly nowhere. A few older cousins are already tying wrappers, getting ready to carry goods to market. You stay still for a moment, letting the sounds settle, and then, out of nowhere, it begins a burst of song from the compound next door. A woman sings while grinding millet. The melody is low, wide, and playful, with lyrics that gently mock her husband's snoring. You smile. This is how people greet the day here, not always with words, but with sound. The village is waking in layers. You can feel it, the thick hum of cooking fires rising like incense, the overlapping conversations, the bleating of a goat that really wants to be noticed. But back to the drums. They don't just serve a practical function, they're art, their memory, their history. The talking drum, shaped like an hourglass, can mimic speech in a way that's almost spooky. A skilled drummer can recite entire genealogies, court rulings, even gossip without saying a word, all through pitch, tone, and pressure on the drum's chords. There's a boy in your family learning to drum right now. He practices every afternoon behind the storehouse. You've seen him get scolded for being too loud or too creative, but you've also seen his face light up when he gets it just right. One day, he might be the one waking the town with a rhythm so rich it makes you forget to be tired. You stand slowly, brushing earth from your wrapper. The sun's up now, gentle but direct. A rooster struts past like he owns the place, Despite having contributed nothing but noise, you step back inside the hut to grab a calabash. You're on water duty next. The others are already halfway to the stream, their backs straight, bowls balanced expertly on their heads. Before you leave, you pause and look around. The sounds are steady now, like a heartbeat. Drum, chatter, crackle, breath. It's not just background noise, it's the pulse of Yoruba life, thousands of mornings deep. And somewhere beyond the compound wall, a hawker calls out the first wares of the day in a sing-song pitch, a cara hot o, echoing through narrow lanes. Breakfast is over, but the day has only just begun. You settle the calabash against your hip, fingers wrapped around its rim, and step out into the path leading away from the compound. The ground is cool still, packed hard from years of feet passing this way, children. Goats, women with baskets, men on their way to farms or shrines. You walk slowly, the weight of the water container light for now, but you know it won't stay that way on the return trip. The path to the stream hums with quiet activity. You pass a girl balancing an enormous clay pot, humming something soft under her breath. Her steps are perfectly timed, not a drop spills. Behind her, two boys are jostling each other over whose turn it is to carry a bundle of firewood. They're pretending it's a game, but you know there's pride in being trusted with the heavier loads. You nod at an elder carrying a small basket of locust beans. She nods back without a word. The kind of nod that contains 3 generations of shared memory. And now, finally, the stream. You kneel at the edge where the water pools clear and shallow. Your reflection greets you with a sleepy smile. The sounds here are gentler frogs clicking softly, birds calling overhead, the splash of water against clay. It smells faintly of earth, leaves, and something green you can't quite name. As you fill the calabash, your stomach gives a small, polite grumble, which brings us to what's next on the breakfast menu. Locust beans and smoked fish. Yes, these are not your typical morning foods by modern standards. But here, they're stars of the show. Locust beans, known locally as IRU, smell a little like socks left in the sun too long, but they taste like magic. They're fermented, rich, savory, and used to thicken stews into a kind of edible fog that warms your entire body. Historians still debate whether IRU was primarily a culinary innovation or a clever way to preserve protein in a hot climate. Whatever its origin, it became essential, particularly at breakfast. When it met smoked fish in the bubbling stew pot, smoked fish is exactly what it sounds like. Fish, caught fresh and laid over open fires to dry and absorb the smoke's flavor. It's chewy, salty, and slightly sweet, like if jerky went swimming and came back wiser. When combined, IRU and smoked fish create a base for light morning soups. Sometimes there's pepper, sometimes not. The elders like theirs with fewer distractions, just the deep umami of fermented bean and the smoky kiss of dried fish. The kids, of course, try to pick out the fish bones and sneak spoonfuls before anyone notices. Back at the compound, you know those 2 ingredients are already softening in the pot. The fire gently coaxes their flavors into harmony, helped along by some diced onions and a splash of palm oil. Your mother will add a pinch of ground crayfish, not too much, it's breakfast. After all, not a royal banquet. As you stand and lift the calabash, full now and heavier than you'd like, your thoughts wander to other compounds, other meals. Every family has its twist. Some add garden eggs, others sneak in dried snails. One aunt, famous for being both wise and mischievous, used to put tiny bitter leaves in her stew just to keep the children humble. You smile at the thought. Your walk back is slower. The calabash rests against your shoulder, and the sun has crept higher, warming your skin. You pass another group of kids with slingshots, clearly not headed to any helpful destination. A few women are sitting outside, slicing okra, their fingers working fast, mouths even faster. When you reach the compound, the smell hits you first. Smoky, rich, tangy. The stew is ready. You hand off the calabash, and your mother nods with her chin towards a stool. You sit, catching your breath. Someone ladles stew into shallow bowls, the IRU floating near the top like little beads of gold. The fish pieces are soft now, ready to fall apart at the touch of a finger. You eat slowly. The fermented tang is familiar earthy, warm, and slightly funky in the best way. The fish breaks apart like butter. You mop up what's left with bits of yam. No crumbs, no leftovers, nothing wasted. These are not delicate flavors. They're bold, grounded, ancestral, the kind that stick to your bones and your breath, which is why someone, somewhere, will make a joke before noon. But for now, you just savor the meal. You're not full yet, but you're satisfied. And the day, like the pot, is only just getting warm. You lean back against the wall of the hut, your belly humming with satisfaction. The sun has shifted again, a little brighter now, dust motes spinning lazily in the light. A goat wanders too close to the hearth, gets shooed with a lazy wave of a ladle, and trots off as if it was leaving anyway. You can hear the scraping of calabashes being rinsed out behind you. The breakfast stew is gone, but its aroma lingers in the air like a secret everyone's still chewing on. Now comes the lull, the calm, purposeful drift between morning meal and full-blown work. But even in this quiet, something is always simmering. And today, it's akamu, a breakfast dish that's both ordinary and oddly controversial. Akamu, or ogi, is the fermented cereal porridge you encountered earlier, but unlike the savory stews, akamu plays in a different league. It's light, slippery, and oddly comforting, like eating warm, edible silk made from fermented maize or sorghum. It smells faintly sour and tastes like a memory you're not quite sure you had. You look over your shoulder, and there it is, a bowl of the stuff, slightly jiggling like it's got a secret. Your younger cousin is stirring sugar into hers with dramatic flair. Another one has added evaporated milk, a modern flourish some elders find slightly scandalous. Historically, akamu was considered a child's food, easy on the stomach, simple to make, and quick to serve. But like many things, it depends on who you ask. Some say it's sacred, a dish so old that the ancestors probably ate it under the same rising sun. Others argue it's just filler, comfort food, a mild-mannered background actor in the grand Yoruba breakfast drama. Historians still debate whether akamu evolved primarily as a weaning food or whether its sour base points to ancient preservation techniques tied to seasonal grain shortages. Whatever its roots, it's stuck around, and on days when the stew is too spicy or the yams too few, Akamu steps up like the dependable friend who always answers your text. The process of making it is deceptively simple but oddly satisfying. Soak maize in water for 2 or 3 days until the smell is exactly at that perfect line between tangy and are we sure this is food? Then it's ground, sieved, and left to settle overnight. What remains is a pale, velvety starch that transforms into pudding with the addition of boiling water and a steady, clockwise stir. And the stirring, don't underestimate the drama of that moment. If you stir too soon, it clumps. Too late, and it turns to soup. But just right, it thickens before your eyes like a spell cast by your grandmother. You take a sip from the wooden spoon offered to you. It slides down your throat like warm silk, sweetened just enough to make your jaw tingle. There's no real chewing involved, just trust. Outside the compound, someone walks past humming. You recognize the tune. It's the one people sing when they're grinding corn. A soft, looping melody, half lullaby, half motivation. You remember when you used to make up Akamu songs as a kid? Silly little verses about how if you spilled your bowl, it would attract lizards with PhDs. Nobody laughed harder at that than your grandfather. Back in the courtyard, the bowls are passed around. One uncle claims he only wants a taste, then proceeds to drink half the pot. Another aunt insists she's full from the stew, but somehow her bowl fills itself anyway. There's a kind of togetherness in this moment, not loud or ceremonial, just easy. You lean against the post, feet stretched out, Akamu bowl resting in your lap. A fly buzzes near your ear, but you're too relaxed to care. And here's the joke: everyone always tells Akamu doesn't fill the stomach, it just tricks it into being patient. They say it with a smile, even as they slurp down the last spoonful. But here's the thing: Akamu may not leave you stuffed, but it gives you space to wake up slowly, to think, to prepare. It's the soft opening act to a life that rarely slows down. As the morning winds toward midday, the compound begins to shift gears. The tools come out, the wrappers tighten, the errands line up. But for now, for one last minute, you sit in the gentle heat, the aftertaste of fermented maize still ghosting on your tongue, and let yourself do absolutely nothing. You've earned it. The morning is easing toward midday now, and the compound's energy shifts again. You can feel it in the way people move, fewer laughs, more focus. No one says, time to work, but somehow everyone knows. You rise slowly, brushing off your wrapper. Your belly still hums with the weightless comfort of Akamu. One of your cousins is already at the loom under the mango tree, threading the heddle with practiced hands. Another is gathering palm fronds to weave into a basket. But you're assigned to the garden, and you're not mad about it. The family plot lies just beyond the compound wall, an unfussy square of earth thick with leafy greens, tubers, and a few wildly defiant cassava stalks that lean like they've had a long night. The sun presses against your shoulders, but not harshly, just enough to remind you it's watching. The garden is mostly quiet, except for the occasional sigh of a hoe splitting the soil. You're sent to fetch a few leaves for lunch prep, ifo tete African spinach, a handful of bitter leaf, and if the gods are kind, some wild scent leaf to freshen up the pot as you move through the rows. You think again of the broader Yoruba breakfast table, the stuff beyond your compound. Because here's a funny thing, for all the yam and oji and pepper soup, there's one overlooked hero that never quite gets the spotlight. Yoruba breakfast greens, they're everywhere. Cooked, steamed, chewed raw, or even crushed into teas. These aren't dainty garnishes. They're full blown characters in the morning meal, spicy, sharp, cleansing. Some make your tongue tingle. Others remind you your aunt is still into herbal cures for things you didn't know you had. Historians still argue whether these greens were used more for nutrition or ritual. Some believe they were valued as medicinal staples, especially in transitional times, childbirth, initiation, illness. Others point to culinary necessity when meat was scarce. Greens stepped up. You pluck a few tender leaves and rub them between your fingers. The scent is immediate, peppery, and bold. Your grandmother used to say if your eyes didn't water while washing bitter leaf, you weren't doing it right. Back in the kitchen hut, the leaves will be rinsed 3 times, or 4, depending on who's in charge. Then they'll be thrown into a bubbling pot with ground melon seeds, egusi thickened into a paste, and finished with a trickle of oil and tiny curls of smoked fish. It's not a heavy meal, more of a late morning boost, a pick me up before people head to the market or begin heavier labor. Some elders call it a second breakfast. Some call it not quite lunch, but everyone eats it, even if they pretend not to. As you gather more leaves, you catch a glimpse of a neighbor's garden. He's growing scent leaf in such ridiculous abundance. It's practically a hedge. You shake your head, then consider sneaking over later for a handful, just a handful. In Yoruba tradition, greens aren't just plants, they're reminders that the earth still feeds you, that bitterness can be washed away, that flavor doesn't need to shout to be remembered. You tuck the bundle of greens under your arm and head back toward the compound. You can already hear the mortar pounding again. Someone's grinding melon seeds. The rhythmic thud, a kind of heartbeat for the whole place. A few cousins are sitting cross legged, plucking leaves from long stems, chatting about something or other, likely who tripped over the goat this morning. You join them, easing into the circle, pulling at the leaves with methodical fingers. As the sun climbs higher and the smell of egusi thickens the air, you lean back slightly and smile. The garden gave just enough. The morning gave just enough. And for a breakfast plant most people forget about, these greens have held their own just fine. The hum of the compound shifts gently as midday approaches. You hear distant laughter mixed with the scraping sounds of knives and the occasional clatter of pots. The rhythm of the day picks up, but there's still a calmness, a slow, steady pulse that keeps everything grounded. You walk toward the kitchen hut, the bundle of freshly picked greens balanced carefully in your arms. The scent of a goosey stew cooking mingles with the earthy aroma of damp soil and drying palm fronds. Someone is slicing onions nearby, their sharp scent cutting through the thick air. In the corner, a small fire burns low, sending soft curls of smoke upward like whispered secrets. The fire is tended with care, a constant companion in the preparation of meals. The smoke itself seems to carry stories, drifting through the air and settling into the fabric of the day. Your mother gestures for you to hand over the greens, and you watch as she expertly rinses and tears them into smaller pieces. There's a practiced fluidity to her movements, each action purposeful yet unhurried, as if time itself bends to her will. As the greens begin to simmer in the pot, mingling with ground melon seeds and the subtle richness of palm oil, your thoughts drift to the role of women in the kitchen, a role as ancient as the land itself. Women, especially in Yoruba culture, have long been the custodians of food traditions. Their hands shape not just meals, but the very fabric of community life. They are storytellers, healers, and keepers of ancestral wisdom, all woven together through the act of cooking. Historians still argue about how much agency women held in these spaces. Some suggest they wielded significant influence over social and economic matters through food production and trade. Others point out the limitations imposed by broader patriarchal structures, creating a complex tapestry of power and tradition. Meanwhile, in the corner of the hut, an old mortar and pestle sits quietly, worn smooth from decades of use. It's more than just a tool, it's a symbol of continuity, linking generations through the steady pounding of seeds and spices. You pick up the pestle and give it a tentative pound against the mortar, feeling the vibration travel through your hand. It's a small connection, but it grounds you in the moment, a tactile reminder that history isn't just in books, but in daily life. As the stew thickens and the kitchen fills with warmth, you feel a growing sense of belonging. This isn't just about food, it's about roots, resilience, and rhythm. Outside, the sun continues its slow climb, casting gentle shadows that lengthen and shift with time. The day moves forward, steady and sure, carrying you along on its quiet current. And as you sit back to rest, savoring the mingling scents and sounds, you realize something simple and profound. Breakfast in the Yoruba kingdoms isn't just a meal, it's a ceremony of life. The sun climbs steadily, painting the sky with soft golds that filter through the leaves. The compound breathes with the warmth, and you find yourself drawn to the rhythmic clatter coming from the marketplace nearby. You step out of the compound, the familiar earth crunching softly beneath your feet. The marketplace buzzes with gentle activity, not the frenetic chaos you might expect, but a steady hum of barter and conversation. Women balance trays of roasted yams, bowls of palm wine, and bundles of spices, while men offer handcrafted tools and colorful textiles. You notice an elderly vendor carefully arranging small clay pots filled with a curious dark liquid kunu, a traditional millet based drink often enjoyed as a morning refreshment. The aroma is subtly sweet and spiced, inviting but not overpowering. Kunu is another breakfast favorite in the region, prized for its refreshing qualities and subtle energy boost. Made from fermented millet, ginger, and cloves, It's a gentle pick me up before the heat of the day sets in. You take a small sip and feel a soft warmth spread through your chest. Historians still debate whether kunu originated as a medicinal tonic or a daily refreshment. Some suggest it was prized for its digestive benefits, while others see it as a communal drink. Fostering social bonds at dawn. Nearby, a group of children chase each other, their laughter weaving through the marketplace's steady rhythm. You smile, recalling how mornings here are as much about connection as they are about sustenance. As you wander past stalls, you spot a vendor selling dried locust beans, or IRU, a staple you remember from earlier. It's fascinating how this single ingredient threads through so many dishes, anchoring flavors and memories alike. You pause at a stall where an artisan is crafting intricate palm wine taps from carved wood. The craftsmanship is delicate, yet practical, designed to harvest the sap without harming the tree. This detail speaks to a deep respect for nature woven into daily life. With your curiosity satisfied, you make your way back, feeling the sun's warmth settle deeper into your skin. The sounds of the marketplace fade behind you, replaced once again by the familiar cadence of the compound. You catch a whiff of something sweet roasted plantains cooling on a woven mat and make a mental note to try them tomorrow morning. The day is unfolding gently, layer by layer, like the stories carried on the breeze. Back at the compound, the afternoon sunlight pours through the open doorway, casting long, warm streaks on the earthen floor. You settle near the fire pit, where your uncle is busy preparing ako, a smooth, creamy cornmeal pudding wrapped in leaves. Its subtle sweetness and silky texture make it a beloved comfort food, often served alongside spicy stews or enjoyed on its own. You watch as he expertly folds the banana leaves, the glossy green wrapping a natural gift from the earth itself. The smell of steamed cornmeal mingles with the faint smoke from the fire, creating an aroma that feels both grounding and nostalgic. Echo is more than just breakfast. It's a symbol of hospitality and care, a dish that carries generations of shared mornings and whispered conversations. It's the kind of food that lingers not just on the tongue, but in the heart. Historians still debate the exact origins of eco, whether it arose from indigenous corn cultivation practices or was influenced by trade and cultural exchanges along the trans Saharan routes. What's clear, though, is its enduring presence in Yoruba daily life. As you savor a small piece, its smoothness contrasts with the fiery pepper soup simmering nearby, creating a balance that feels just right. It's a dance of flavors, a reminder that even the simplest meals can hold complexity. Nearby, children play quietly with carved wooden toys, their soft giggles weaving through the afternoon air. Their innocence and joy add a gentle soundtrack to the scene, grounding you in the rhythm of everyday life. You lean back against the cool wall, feeling the sun's warmth seep into your skin and the comforting weight of tradition settle around you. The slow pace, the subtle humor in your uncle's exaggerated stories about his hunting exploits, the shared smiles, all these elements blend into a tapestry of belonging. As the day winds down, you reflect on how these breakfast rituals do more than fill stomachs. They nourish connections, anchor identity, and to totopostasis, and offer moments of peace amidst life's bustle. And with that thought, you close your eyes briefly, letting the sounds, smells, and stories carry you gently toward the afternoon's quiet lull. The afternoon light softens, casting a gentle glow over the compound. You notice the shadows lengthening, stretching lazily across the packed earth like old friends settling in for a chat. Somewhere nearby, the low hum of a calabash shaker mingles with the rustle of palm leaves in the breeze, a subtle soundtrack to this quiet moment. You wander toward the well, where women gather in small clusters, exchanging stories as they fill their clay pots with cool water. The well is more than a source of life, it's a social hub, a place where news travels and bonds strengthen over the clink of pottery. Your thoughts drift to the role of water in daily rituals. Before the morning meal, it was customary to wash hands and faces, a simple act that cleansed not just the body, but also the spirit. These moments of purification prepared people to receive the blessings of the day, setting a mindful tone for what followed. Historians still debate how deeply intertwined these cleansing rituals were with Yoruba spiritual beliefs. Some argue that water symbolized renewal and connection to the divine, while others see it as practical hygiene shaped by environment and necessity. As you fill your own small pot, you watch a child carefully balance a calabash on her head, stepping lightly but confidently. It's a skill learned early, practiced daily, a dance of balance and grace. Nearby, an elder recounts tales of the sacred rivers and the spirits said to inhabit them. His voice is low, rich with reverence and a touch of humor, as he warns the children not to tease the water gods lest they unleash gentle mischief. You smile at the thought. Mischief here isn't the stuff of trouble, but of playful lessons reminders that respect and joy can coexist. Walking back toward the kitchen, you pause to run your fingers through the cool water, feeling the world slow just a bit. It's a small moment, but one that echoes the larger rhythms of Yoruba life, where every action, no matter how mundane, holds a quiet significance. The sun dips lower now, casting a golden haze that softens the edges of the day. You settle once more into the gentle flow, ready to savor the next unfolding chapter of this breakfast journey. Evening shadows stretch across the compound as the day leans toward its close. But here, time doesn't rush. You feel the soft, steady pulse of life in this place, a gentle rhythm that carries you through moments big and small. Your attention drifts to the modest clay bowls lined up neatly on the woven mats. Each holds a small portion of moin moin, a savory steamed bean pudding wrapped in leaves that, in the morning, would have been a treat alongside other breakfast dishes. Moin moin is one of those humble wonders, rich, soft, and packed with flavor, yet unassuming. Its ingredients are simple, peeled black-eyed peas blended with onions, peppers, and a dash of palm oil, then steamed to tender perfection. You remember hearing that moin moin likely traces its origins back centuries, carried along trade routes and adapted through local ingenuity. It's a dish that has woven itself into many Nigerian traditions, embodying a sense of community and celebration, even in everyday moments. Historians still argue over the precise roots of Moin Moin's diffusion, whether it spread through internal migration or external influence. Either way, it's a staple that quietly unites. You pick up a small leaf parcel, feeling the warmth seep through. Unwrapping it reveals the soft pudding inside, its aroma inviting and comforting. The taste is mild but layered, the heat of the peppers balanced by the earthiness of the beans. Nearby, a gentle breeze rustles the palm fronds, carrying with it the faint sounds of distant drums, a reminder that even in rest, culture continues to breathe. You take another bite, savoring the calm and the connection embedded in this simple meal. It's not just food, it's history, wrapped in leaves, steamed in time, and as the evening deepens, you find yourself drifting alongside the stories and flavors, lulled by the steady pulse of tradition unfolding softly around you. The sky softens into twilight hues, and the cool evening air carries the faint scent of smoked fish from a nearby fire. You stroll toward the outer edge of the compound, where elder women sit, weaving intricate patterns into strips of palm leaf. Their fingers move rhythmically, creating baskets and mats that are as much art as utility. You pause to watch, feeling the soothing cadence of their work like a quiet song without words. These woven pieces aren't just practical items, they're carriers of cultural memory, each pattern telling a story or signaling a family lineage. Basket weaving, you recall, was a skill passed down through generations, often taught during quiet moments between meals or after long days in the fields. The palm fronds themselves, abundant and resilient, are the perfect medium, a natural gift to the Yoruba people. Historians still debate whether basket weaving originated independently among the Yoruba or was influenced by interactions with neighboring cultures. What's clear is its significance. These baskets carried yams to market, stored precious food, and held the fabric of daily life together. Nearby, a group of children play a game using small woven discs, laughing softly as they flick them across the ground. It's a pastime that feels timeless, as if generations before had played the same way under the same fading light. As you watch, a soft breeze lifts a strand of your hair, and you're reminded again of the delicate balance in this world between utility and beauty, tradition and change. You take a deep breath, letting the sounds and sights of the evening settle into your bones. The day's meals, rituals, and stories have woven themselves into a rich tapestry, one you're honored to be part of. And as darkness gently folds over the land, you feel the comforting embrace of history wrapping around you, guiding you toward rest. Night descends softly, and the compound settles into a gentle quiet. You find yourself drawn to the flickering glow of a single oil lamp near the doorway. Its warm light dances across the walls, casting playful shadows that seem to whisper secrets from the past. You sit down beside your grandmother, who carefully unwraps a bundle of dried herbs ephemerin, known for its calming properties. The ritual of preparing this herbal tea is a nightly tradition, a gentle way to wind down after the day's activities. As the herbs steep A fragrant steam rises, filling the air with subtle hints of citrus and earth. The tea is both soothing and mildly sweet, a natural remedy passed through generations, believed to ease digestion and invite restful sleep. Historians still debate how much of Yoruba herbal medicine was influenced by indigenous knowledge versus exchanges along ancient trade routes. Regardless, its role in daily life is undeniable, rooted in a deep understanding of nature's gifts. Your grandmother's voice, soft and steady, begins to tell tales of legendary healers and wise women, their knowledge forming a tapestry that blends healing with storytelling. She sprinkles in a few light jokes about her own youthful misadventures with herbs. I once brewed something so bitter, even the goats turned away. She chuckles. You sip the tea slowly, letting the warmth spread through you. The stories, the ritual, the gentle night all weave together into a comforting lullaby. Outside, the night sounds crickets. Distant calls fill the air with a steady rhythm. It's a soundscape designed for rest, a perfect backdrop for easing the mind and body. And as you sit quietly, you realize this moment embodies the essence of Yoruba, mornings and evenings, a balance of nourishment, connection, and gentle care that carries you through the cycle of days. The night deepens, and a soft breeze rustles through the nearby trees, carrying the faint scent of blooming jasmine. You close your eyes briefly, letting the peaceful sounds lull you deeper into the quiet of the evening. Your mind drifts back to an earlier morning when you observed the careful preparation of oji, a fermented cereal pudding made from maize, sorghum, or millet, smooth, slightly tangy, and gently sweetened with honey or palm sugar. Oji is a breakfast staple, comforting and light. You recall the slow fermentation press the grains soaked and left to rest in cool places, allowing beneficial microbes to work their magic. The result is a food that's not only tasty, but also easier to digest. A clever example of traditional knowledge meeting practical needs. Historians still debate whether fermentation techniques like those used for oji were independently developed in West Africa or influenced by interactions with North African cultures. Either way, the process reflects a sophisticated understanding of food science long before modern labs. As you think about oji, you remember a quirky detail in some communities. People believed that fermenting grains invited good spirits into the home. The bubbling pot was considered a sign of prosperity and protection. That gentle belief adds a layer of warmth to the breakfast table, a reminder that food nourishes not just the body, but the soul. You smile at the thought, feeling a deep sense of connection to the people and practices that shaped these rituals. The slow rhythm of preparation, the communal sharing, the blending of taste and tradition, it all feels like a soft thread weaving through time. Outside, the night carries on in steady whispers. You breathe in deeply, allowing the calm to settle fully, ready to drift alongside the stories and flavors into rest. The night air is cool and steady as you settle back, the world outside quite quiet except for the occasional hoot of an owl. You think again about the early mornings spent preparing akamu, another name for ogi, but with slight regional variations in texture and taste. The preparation involves more than just soaking grains. There's a delicate balance of timing, temperature, and patience, a practice passed down orally through generations. Mothers often start the process the night before, waking before dawn to stir the fermenting porridge and prepare it for the day. The scent of akamu simmering is subtly sour yet inviting, a gentle awakening for the senses. When served warm with a drizzle of honey or a sprinkle of ground nuts, it becomes a nurturing embrace, especially on cooler mornings. Historians still debate the role of fermentation in West African foodways, particularly whether it was a pragmatic adaptation or carried symbolic meaning. Some suggest it was viewed as a form of natural alchemy, transforming simple grains into something greater. You smile, imagining those early mornings where the whole compound wakes to the smell of akamu, an aroma as familiar and comforting as a mother's voice. Nearby, the soft murmur of family conversation drifts in from the adjoining hut, reminders of the social fabric that breakfast rituals helped maintain. These moments were less about rushing and more about gathering, sharing, and grounding oneself for the day ahead. As you breathe deeply, letting the peaceful night envelop you, you feel a connection stretching backward through time, an unbroken chain of simple, meaningful practices. And with that, the steady rhythm of life continues, steady and sure, ready to carry you gently into tomorrow. The night deepens, and the stars begin to twinkle softly above. Your thoughts drift to the early mornings when the smell of freshly ground ojied ripe plantains fills the air. These plantains, sliced thin and fried to golden perfection, make a delightful accompaniment to the main breakfast dishes. You picture the delicate skill it takes to slice the plantains just right, not too thick, not too thin, ensuring they cook evenly. The sizzling sound as they hit the hot oil is a comforting morning melody, familiar and steady. Plantains were an essential part of the Yoruba diet, not just for their flavor, but for their versatility. They could be boiled, fried, or roasted, each preparation bringing out different textures and tastes. Historians still debate how plantains spread throughout West Africa, with some tracing their journey back to early trade routes linking Asia and Africa. Whatever their origins, they became a staple, deeply embedded in daily life and ceremonial feasts alike. You smile at a quirky fact. Some families believed that eating fried plantains before starting the day would bring a little extra energy and luck, though no one could quite explain why. It was a comforting tradition. Nearby, the chatter of neighbors preparing their own morning meals creates a gentle background hum. The aroma of cooking blends with the cool morning air, wrapping the compound in a warm, inviting embrace. As you breathe in, you feel the slow pulse of these rituals, how food, preparation, and community intertwine to create a sense of belonging and peace. With the night gently fading into dawn, you settle deeper into the calm, ready for the next chapter of this softly unfolding story. The first light of dawn begins to creep softly through the palm fronds, casting a gentle glow over the compound. You awake to the rhythmic tapping of a mortar and pestle somewhere nearby, the familiar sound of iroko, a traditional yam pounding ritual. Yams are more than just food here. They carry deep cultural significance, symbolizing prosperity and life itself. The process of peeling, slicing, and pounding yams into a smooth, stretchy dough is a morning ritual that requires both muscle and patience. You imagine the communal effort involved, young and old joining in, their hands moving in harmony to transform the rough tuber into a delicate, comforting staple. The pounding rhythm creates a hypnotic beat, a soundtrack to early day life. Historians still debate the origins of yam cultivation among the Yoruba, some suggesting ancient West African domestication, others pointing to introductions from other regions. Regardless, yams have been central to local diets and festivals for centuries. A quirky detail comes to mind in some villages. It was believed that a yam pounding session, accompanied by lively singing and dancing, could chase away bad dreams. Setting a positive tone for the day, you smile, picturing the laughter and chatter mingling with the pounding, a perfect balance of work and joy. As the sun rises higher, the aroma of freshly cooked wafts through the air, promising a hearty start. You feel a gentle warmth spread through you, a quiet